What's going on? Welcome back. Today we will doing Empline or employee line as it stands for. So in this room we will be exploring new stuff in enumeration, exploitation, and privilege escalation. So basically all you have to do in this room is to deploy the machine and find the user and root flag. So make sure to deploy the machine and let's start answering or let's start routing some boxes. So basically first thing we would do, I would initiate an nmap scan, which I should have initiated long time before, but I didn't. Sudo nmap-sv-a, and then we grab the IP. So I'm gonna leave the nmap scan running. I'm going to proceed here to the page. So once you navigate to the IP address of the page, you will see this page. Empline simple app that we create. If you scroll down, you see a page that talks about an application, and here the language seems to me, I don't know. If you scroll down, you see nothing. Hover over the tabs, you have about, testimonials, employment. If you click again on employment, you see here at the very uh, left, below the page, you'll see here, if you right click, inspect elements. So the button refers to a link here, http job empline.thm/careers. Now, in order to access these links, you have to add the address or the IP address to the host file. So basically what we do, we say cat etc hosts. I have that already added. Just add the IP address and type job empline.thm. Now if you go back and try to access that page, you see a login form. And we have the name of the software, OpenCats, and the version of that software, 094. So when we know what is the software being used, all right, and we know the version, we can just find a way to see if there is an active exploit. So if we type open cats exploit, so we have the first link from exploit database, and also we have from CVE details 094 security update OpenCats applicant tracking system. If we go back here, we see the version is actually 094, which means if there is an exploit in one of these pages, it matches the one we're looking for. So here it is 094, 0942. This one is okay, and this one is also okay. If you click on this one, so in response to an XML external entity injection vulnerability, we have released OpenCats 0943. So here is an explanation of the vulnerability. OpenCats suffers from an unauthenticated XML external entity injection that allows remote users to read files on the underlying operating system. So OpenCats is an employee tracking application. The current version installed is vulnerable to XML or unauthenticated XML external entity injection, which we can use to read sensitive files in the operating system. How do we do that? So if you go back and click on exploit DB, so here docx XML external entity injection, it means that you can exploit the vulnerability by making a file with an extension docx, and then you have to edit the underlying XML. Specifically, we can, as you can see here at this line, we can return a base64 encoded version of the sensitive files, and all we have to do is just to use this line, and instead of the double braces, use the resource you're trying to access. An example would be etc/password. So how can we take this to an implementation form? So let's see. If we create now a file, just create a file, a Word file. Type in your name and surname. This file is supposed to be a resume file. Save the file as .cx. Alright, let's assume that you created the file. Now, the next step is to assume that the file is zipped or compressed, right? So basically, what we will do here, we're going to type unzip test.docx, right? For this dialog, it's not going to appear in your case if you're doing this for the first time. Because I have done this before, it's asking me whether I would like to replace the existing files that I have created before. So I'm going to type yes, 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 yes. Okay. So among the files that are created upon unzipping the file is word slash, where is the file? Okay, word slash document.xml. Now, if I try to open this file, I see here the XML file that is referred in this exploit, right? So what you have to do now, you have just to copy this line and paste it here at the very next line. Now, in this line, I'm trying to exploit an XML external entity injection by using the entity test and trying to retrieve the contents of the config file, all right, of OpenCats encoded in base64. So basically, that's the first thing you have to do. The next thing is to look for the name that you have just entered into the docs file and try to find that name here. Replace the name with the entity name as is. So ampersand test semicolon so that you are calling the entity from this line. So save the file and then zip it back. So zip test and then try to include the document or XML document which we have manipulated. After zipping the file, you can now go ahead and upload it. How do you upload that? Just go to careers, click on show all jobs. You will see one listing, click on that, apply to position, browse, test, upload. As you can see, we have received base64 encoded value. Now go ahead and decode that value here. You will receive the configuration file of the OpenCats. The configuration file contains username and password. Guess what? We will use the username and password to log into the MySQL server. That's a natural outcome of this process. So I'm gonna scroll this down, minimize that, and log in now to the MySQL server. So MySQL empline.thm-u james-p. This is the password. Cannot connect to local MySQL server through socket. Yep, I guess I have to add Empline as well to the host file. What I actually did, I added only job.empline. So here I'm gonna extend this line 10.10.207.247 empline.thm. Now trying to log in one more time, password. Didn't work. Let's make sure the IP is correct. Or the machine is up. The machine is up. Empline.thm. Let's try this one. MySQL 10.10.207.247. dash u James dash p password, and we cannot connect. Let's understand why. If we take a look at the nmap scan results, we see we have the port 3306 open. 3306 for MySQL, so it's very weird. I cannot connect. Localhost OpenCats. Yes, the switch -h has been overlooked by mine. So now if I try to connect, most probably it will work. And yes, it worked. Okay, now let's take a look at the databases. So databases. So we have information schema and we have OpenCats. Probably we're interested in OpenCats. So let's use OpenCats. Use OpenCats. Show tables. Let's take a look at the tables here. We have user. The user table is interesting. Describe user. So in the table user, we have these columns: username, email, password. So now we will retrieve the sensitive information from this table by saying select user name, email, password from user. Okay, that's very great. We have now admin email, and we have password or hash, cats, George, and James. So let's take these three to crack station, trying to crack them. Let's take this one. This one not found. Okay, that's fine. Next one, George. This one is found. Let's copy that. And now try to log into the SSH server. So SSH George at empline.thm. Type yes. Type in the password. And now we're logged in. So after all of these steps, we were able to establish the first foothold on the machine. Okay, now the next step is to conduct privilege escalation. All right. So one regular ordinary step you would do when you conduct privilege escalation is to automate the process. Okay. Now you may use Linux explicit suggester, you may use linpiece or other Linux privilege escalation scripts. You upload them and you see what they would give you. Now, normally I skip this step because it's repetitive and there is no creativity in that step. So I would assume that you can upload your tool and scan the machine for privileged escalation vectors. Now, because I'm doing this not for the first time, I know what is the vector here. So I would tell you, you run linpiece, all right? And after you run linpiece, you will see that there is a caption EP capability in Ruby. Let me explain more. So if I go to this link, so Ruby has the cap chown plus EP capability set. According to that capability, we can just change the owner of any file, all right, to the owner specified with the ID here and a group. So if I have a file, sensitive file, I would like to change the ownership of this file, I can use Ruby chown capability. Okay. Now normally Ruby shouldn't have this capability enabled, right? Uh, because this is enabled, we can now take this to our advantage. So let's illustrate this more. If I type ID here, I see I am the user George and this is my ID. Now, if I select a sensitive file, okay, and try to assign the file here, test file, let's say, and make it under the ownership of George, I would select instead of 100, I would type 1002. And the group doesn't matter. That's what we will do now. So if I type echo file 1002 for George and then NIL for nothing, and then I type the file that I would like to change the ownership of, etc shadow, because at the end I would like to be able to escalate my privileges by being able to manipulate the shadow file. Let's say exploit.rb. Okay, now if I run the exploit ruby and try to change the permissions on the etc shadow. Now I type ls-la etc shadow. I see now the shadow file permissions have changed, and as you can see the ownership also has changed to George, which means we were able to just change the ownership using this trick because Ruby has this capability. Now because we can change on this file, we can now create our own password, our own hash, and import this hash to this file. So make password-m sha 512 say password. Command make password not found. So the tool is not installed here. Okay, fine, let's do it on my machine. So make password -m, the algorithm of Linux, say password. Okay then, let's take this one. This is the hash, and now edit on the etc shadow file. So nano etc shadow. This is the root. So all you have to do now is to change the root hash. So remove this one. And now save the file. So now switch to root, su root, and type in the password ID, and you are now the root user. So ls cat user.txt, this is the first flag. Next, cd root ls cat root.txt, and this is the root flag. And that was it. I hope you like that, and see you hopefully in the next video.